Well, hey there, guys. Welcome to Of Mountains and Men, the outdoor adventure podcast. This week on the show, I'm chatting up a storm with Jackie, a marine ecology student who scuba dives a whole lot in some really cool places. She also loves hiking, as if she wasn't awesome enough. We also talk about yoga because I'm getting old and apparently it's good for you. And we even get a little philosophy in, so make sure you stick around till the end. Roll the tape!
Are you ready to go adventuring? Come along, my friend of mountains and men.
This episode is brought to you by NatureBox. NatureBox is a subscription service that provides you with all natural, healthy snacks. You can pick from their endless variety and have it delivered straight to your door. Adventurers need a lot of fuel, so get yours from NatureBox. If you follow the links on my website, you can even save up to 40%. Just go to ofmountainsandmen.com/episodes and click on the banners there. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. Jackie, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
All right. Hey, why don't you tell the guys a little bit about what it is that you do? The marine biology thing is basically what brought me to ask you to be on the show. So why don't you start there?
All right, cool. Well, right now I'm in grad school and I'm working toward my master's in marine ecology. I study primarily coral and I'm focused on the growth and reproductive biology of certain coral species, mostly in Florida. And I've done some field work in the Virgin Islands off of St. John, so that was pretty cool. So basically, I dive a lot for my research because I have to go work on the reefs. But I also dive around like Buffalo and Western New York and Canada in the Great Lakes and the Niagara River. And I also work at Buffalo General Hospital, and I do neuroscience research on the side because that was kind of my path before I started with marine biology. So yeah, that's what I do now.
So it's kind of an interesting thing that your studies brought you to have to dive. But were you diving before?
Yeah, so actually diving is what kind of made me pursue my dream, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better term, of being a marine biologist. So like my dad has always been a really big influence on my life, and I used to scuba dive with him when I was really little, and so I always wanted to get my scuba certification. So I ended up getting that a few years ago because there's no mountains for me to hike around Buffalo and in the Western New York area. So I needed something else to do. So I went and I got my scuba certification. And then from there, I went on and got my advanced certification. And that kind of, it kind of led me to be like, all right, well now like there's so much more to do. And that like I can enjoy and like get paid for at the same time. So that's how I kind of, started doing that. But yeah, I dove before I started marine science.
Oh, okay. And so this is going to be probably very specific to the region people are in, but like, what's the path to be able to dive like alone, scuba dive alone, on your own? I mean.
Well, you're not supposed to scuba
Yeah,
dive
no,
alone.
but I mean, like
That's
with like without having to like have an instructor with you. I mean.
Okay. So the starting point would be to enroll in a basic open water certification class. I dive with NAUI, but there's also PADI, so you can dive with NAUI or PADI, and so you go and you get your open water certification that way, and then you need to. I mean, then you can. What your open water certification allows you to dive to, I think, if I remember correctly, it's 60 feet with a buddy, but without instruction. Maybe not 60 feet. Maybe it's deeper. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while. But so yeah, once you have your open water certification, you can pretty much go with a buddy. But I would say that it's really easy for people to think that they know a lot more than they do after they get their open water certification, and that's what leads to accidents. So always like know more. It's better. Go on, get the advanced certification, and you're just in a better position overall to dive on your own. And I'd also stress the importance of, getting your own equipment, because overall, like, that's your life support equipment at the end of the day. And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I see what you mean. I mean, I tried scuba diving like twice, and both times it was in a resort. And
uh,
both, yeah, and both
yeah,
times, like, I dove with an instructor that I had met like 20 minutes earlier.
yeah,
And
right.
I'm a pretty crazy person that, doesn't really care for the safety of his own life, but I realized, like, cuz he was saying, like, okay, we'll go to 3 meters, right? 10 feet. And if, like, we'll go to 10 feet with everybody, and then, like, those that are really good, that I feel like they're comfortable, you know, we'll go deeper. We'll go to 10 meters, which is like 30 feet, right?
Hmm.
And like, I was one of the, I'm there for anything. So I was kind of comfortable at 10 feet. And we went to 30, me and like two other people with the instructor, because everybody else, like, nah, we're good. And yeah, I mean, it felt weird, and everything was like not really properly adjusted. And even though I was only at 30 feet, it didn't feel super deep, but I could see like everything that could go wrong quick and in a hurry. And I just knew that I didn't know what to do if it did go wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's an issue with, I mean, I'm in no position to really give a professional opinion, but I think that's a huge problem with those resort dives, I guess, because they teach you in what was it like? It was probably like a 1 day class or a 2 day class, and they
Uh,
certify you.
yeah, no. Um, it was basically, I had to show up the morning in the pool, and they made me try the gear on in the pool. And then, like, that was 15 minutes maybe. And then, like, they bring you on the boat, and since you already know how to put the stuff on, yeah, they just make you dive in the water, and they take you to like 3 feet, and, like, feel people out, and they're like, nah, you're not doing it today. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah, and they're like, nah, you suck. I'm sorry. And
Yeah, well,
the people that, like, pass the eye test basically get to go to 10 feet, and like, they really don't bring people to 30 feet unless they feel comfortable. But yeah, even that, I mean, even 10 feet, I was like, with this shit on my back, I mean, swimming up 10 feet, even though, I'm a fairly big guy, so I don't float too well. It's, I have to swim to the surface, and with that shit on, no, it's not happening. If
yeah,
I'm,
right. Well, you also probably had 10 pounds of lead on you.
yeah, there you go. Like, to cancel my buoyancy, whatever little buoyancy
Exactly.
I have, and yeah, no. So if I have to do this in a panic with like little air left, no, there's no way.
Yeah, right. I mean, those kind of classes I think are okay for people who want to go and like cross it off their bucket list type of thing. But as far as like sport diving and doing it seriously, I think I was fortunate enough to attend like a really, really awesome dive school here.
Hmm.
Um, and my training, I went through, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks, and it was 2 hours in the classroom. And then that was followed every classroom session was then followed by a pool session where we would learn our skills, like how to remove your mask and how to remove your gear underwater and put it back. We had a really crazy swim test. So I think like that's what people need to do if they want to be like a sport diver, because otherwise, I mean, you get these people who are coming in with just these certifications from resorts, and something goes wrong underwater and they panic, and that's how people drown.
Yeah, and if you're gonna be somebody's buddy, it's not only about you. Like, if it was only about me, I'm stupid, but that's on me. If I'm going to be somebody's buddy, I can't be stupid with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You also need to be there for somebody else. So you have to kind of know your stuff
Yeah,
or
no,
know not to panic.
yeah,
So,
there you go. And I mean, it's kind of like climbing. It's basically the same thing. You have people that go to indoor gyms, because they live in a city, and they, they at some point they're gonna want to go to a crag, right? They're gonna want to try it on the rock, and they'll see people doing trad, which is, like, you're not using bolted routes, like previously bolted routes that you just have to clip in. they'll want to like put their own protection in the wall. So it's like camming devices that you bring with you, and
Mhm.
that allows you to climb anything, right? Even if nobody has come and bolted it before, and even if it's not equipped already with bolts, you can climb anything because you're just, putting your protection as you go. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, if you haven't climbed for like years and you don't have actual on the rock experience, you're gonna die. Yeah, no, but
That's
it's but it but it's true. Like, I mean, you've been to the Adirondacks. The cliffs, they're not close to hell, not at all. Like people have to hike like for hours to get to you, and then it's pretty high. Like in a climbing gym, you'll get 35, 40 feet up in a matter of minutes. So imagine if you've been climbing for 20, how far, how high up you are.
Yeah, right. Oh, I've never been climbing. That's definitely on my bucket list, but wow, that sounds super crazy.
No, no. Hey, honestly, I tried it recently. I'm pretty new to it, on account of I met a girl that was doing it, but it's definitely helped me out with a lot. Like my big focus on training for the longest time, like until I got the big back injury, was like strength. I did a few strongman like amateur things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I realized I was carrying way too much weight and it was fucking up my body something fierce. So I decided to like I still needed to move and to do like extreme stuff, but it couldn't be like taxing on my body anymore. So doing body weight stuff like that, but it's super technical still and it's very like it's just as much of a mental exercise as it is like physical because it's a lot of technique and you have to kind of read the route as you go, so you like everything's engaged. It's really really cool. It's not I'd say it's not like hiking where you can pretty much clear your mind and you can think. It's you're really really engaged with what you're doing.
Hmm. Right. Wow. Sounds intense.
Yeah, so diving. And I mean, so you're in like upstate New York, you're doing it in the Great Lakes, I assume?
Yeah, yep. Actually, the Great Lakes and the Niagara River are some of the best freshwater diving in the world. So I'm actually pretty fortunate to be right here.
Yeah, I'm downstream from that. When it gets here, the water is not too clear.
Oh yeah, wait, where are you?
I'm in Montreal.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
water, but yeah, it's not super. It's not super pretty when it gets here.
Actually, I think Lake Huron. Have you been there?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh, you should totally go. It's probably one of my favorite dive spots. I dived there before I went to go dive in the ocean. It's frigid. It's freezing cold. We were wearing 7 millimeter suits and hoods and gloves, like all suited up. And then you jump in the water and it's like ice down your spine.
Mm.
Um, but it's like a freezing Caribbean. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh wow. Okay.
Hmm. It's
So there's a
crystal.
lot. So there's a lot of sea life. Not sea, but there's a lot of like life down there.
No, actually, there's not.
Oh, okay.
Last time I was diving there, we saw a few snakes and some guppies or these fish that they like suck on the bottom. I'm blanking now. Guppies, I think. But
Okay.
yeah, so nothing huge, but there's sturgeon if you're in the right spot at the right time.
Mm. Yeah,
So
or like pikes or yeah, but it's I don't know. Freshwater fish are ugly.
you think so?
I don't know. I mean, the ones I've seen, it's what they need to do to stay alive, right? Because it's mostly murky water and like yeah, if they go and like sport like bright colors, they're gonna get eaten right away. It doesn't really make sense for them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're totally entitled to your opinion.
No, I'm not. Yeah, no. Okay. Maybe I'm judging them. I don't know.
I like them.
No, totally. I mean, hey, it's not because something's ugly I don't like it.
Yeah, they're definitely not as colorful as ocean fish, that's for sure.
Yeah, but so not a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, like besides besides that, like it's basically like rocks, I assume.
Yeah, huge rocks. It depends what lake you go into. Diving in Lake Erie, there is just covered in zebra mussels. They're invasive and they cover everything. So there's actually not a lot to see in Lake Erie, but yeah, just rocks and mussels, I guess.
Huh.
But it's super cool.
No, I guess, and it's got to be pretty deep, right?
I'm not selling it, I know.
No, hey, come on. Hey, I mean, no, not everything can be, the beautiful reefs of, the Great Barrier.
That is true. That is true.
So, yeah, I think I came across your Instagram account when I was looking for other 46ers. So
Really?
yeah, 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 and I mean, hey, I should let you talk. Do you wanna like explain what the 46ers are, like quickly?
Um, yeah, so I mean, the 46 high peaks are in the northern Adirondacks, and there are 46 mountains over 4,000 feet. And there are certain criteria that you need to meet in order for something to be a 46 high peak. But I think I'm like totally blank. I think it's an 800-foot rise on each side, and
Yeah, no, it's
or
like
something.
if it's like the peaks are too close together and there's not enough difference
It's like
in
a mile or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mile.
yeah. But there's 46 of them, yeah.
There's 46.
So
Yep.
like how far along are you?
I am, oh boy, I think I'm at 14. I'm really not that far along just because I don't live at home anymore.
Right.
But it's also actually really hard to find people who want to go. And I'm a little bit hesitant to hike a lot of the high peaks alone, just because usually it's an all day thing. And the footing can get pretty dicey towards the top, and the weather changes, and you can get lost pretty easily on some of them. So yeah, I guess my biggest thing just holding me back from getting that 46 is just people who want to go, when I'm home at
Right.
least.
Right.
So,
It's I mean, I started doing it because it's basically, it's a 2 hour drive from here, so it's pretty close.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and eventually I crossed off the ones I could do in half a day because I was with a hiking partner that, didn't really want to spend, 18 hours on the mountains. And I understand that, but it's basically I got snagged, on the same thing. I needed to find people to like that wanted to actually like invest the time to get there, and some of them you can't even get to in a day. You need more than a day, or it doesn't make sense to go there for just a day because then you're 2 or 3 hours from the next peak over, and you don't want to come back and re-hike all those miles.
Exactly, exactly. I actually just dragged my brother up Rocky Peak Ridge,
Mm.
and
Did you do giant as well, or?
yeah, so we went up Giant, and I was like, "You gotta come over here because I'm not hiking all this way again."
Yeah, no, there you go. Like
Rocky Peak.
that's the perfect example. Like they're right next to each other, and there's a parking lot on each side. And like once you're in there, yeah, you got to do both. You don't do one and then come back for the other because that doesn't make sense.
Exactly, exactly. I think my next batch is going to be Algonquin, right in Iroquois.
Oh, right, right.
I just have to plan it correctly. Usually we try to do them in a day. We actually tried to hike Mount Marcy in a day. We did hike Mount Marcy in a day. It was a total disaster though. We
Yeah,
were
and
pretty.
it's pretty extreme. I mean, trying to do that in a day is pretty intense. Did you do skylight and?
I haven't done Skylight.
Okay.
I actually kind of want to save Skylight for last.
Oh, interesting.
For no particular reason. It's just it always kind of struck me as one that I would save for last.
Yeah, no, because yeah, that's the thing I've read the most on Backpacker and everything is like keep a nice one for your last one because you don't want to be doing like Allen for your last one.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I like for people that don't know anything, like Allen is probably the shittiest one to do because it's like super remote. There's nothing else around it, and like you've got an approach hike that's mud and shit for like 10, 12 hours before you like actually get anywhere.
Have you done Lower Wolfjaw?
I haven't.
Okay, that's another one that I would never save for last. We got to the top and we actually didn't know where the top was because there wasn't a view.
Oh yeah.
Could
Yeah,
definitely be worse. I saw tabletop isn't too great either.
yeah, there you go. Like some of them, you just hike for a day and you suffer through all of the, the if you're doing it in those summer, especially like the humidity and the and everything, and you get there and there's just nothing to see.
The
It's,
humidity. What about the flies?
oh
The
yeah,
bug.
that
Oh,
too.
they'll eat you alive.
Oh yeah, no, that's not good. That's why I started going to the Adirondacks because here there's a few mountains. Can't call them mountains really, but there's a few big hills that are interesting, and there's day hikes there. But then you get to the top, and it's just it's wood. There's just big trees there. You can't see anything. There's no views to be had, and
Yeah, when you put all that work in, you want a view, you know?
yeah, but there's views on the way, but then you get to the top and you're like, okay, well, it's
Well,
the
now I can
halfway
stop.
point. Let's stop there, eat something, and then it's just like it's a mud pit with trees around it.
Yeah, but it's not so much about the destination as it is about the journey, you know?
Oh yeah, that's a nice cliche there. No, it
I'll
is
try to that one.
it is true, but I mean, which okay, so you've done 14. Like, which peaks do you remember the most?
Um, well, I remember all of them, but I remember Gothics the
Oh,
most. That was my favorite. The cables. Oh my God, they were so much fun. And I went with one of my best friends, so that was a good hike. It took us about, I think if I remember correctly, it was about 10 hours round trip or 9 hours. But if you haven't done it, it's amazing. You go up the cables and then you have to hike straight up this like bald rock peak. It's terrifying.
yeah, and there's like I've been interested in Gothics because it's like of the 46 peaks, it's the pretty much the one where you can do the most rock climbing because there's like this huge north face that's a granite wall.
Yeah. Yep.
And but once you're at the top, like how close are you to the cliffs, to the actual like rock face?
What do you mean?
Like this like stereotypical picture of Gothics with the huge
Oh, you mean that rock slide on the
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Uh, um, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so you weren't that close to it then.
I guess not. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it was my background picture on every computer I
Um,
used for like the longest time, and
okay.
yeah, no, and it was just I even looked into like ways to like rock climb to the summit, and
Really?
yeah, no, it's doable, but I'm not at that level. I think I'm gonna have an opportunity to hike it before I can climb it. So
Yeah, well, I mean, you should definitely get on that because it's very much worth it. But I mean, if you have other questions about that, I'm sure there's a bunch of people on Instagram that have actually hiked all 46 that can give you a lot more information than I
yeah,
can.
no, but hey, it's I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and there's another thing I was looking at, and I mean I'm gonna have this conversation now, and you know what you know, and you tell me what you can, but I, as a guy that did a lot of weightlifting and everything, and that got injured, and that is looking for alternative ways to, keep in shape and keep mobile, I've been looking into yoga recently. Yeah, no, I know. I'm like this huge meat sack that's just looking into yoga. It's pretty ridiculous, but um, how long have you been doing yoga for?
Going on about a year and a half now.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
practicing regularly. So fairly recently I started compared to, other people that have been practicing for years. But I actually started after I got back from Hawaii, and it was like such a life-changing experience for me that I mean, I've always kind of, I guess, I've practiced very like irregularly. My practice definitely wasn't anything regular, but I started practicing every day once I got back from Hawaii.
Okay.
And I started with a 30-day yoga challenge. which sounds super corny, but it was like for 15 minutes a day. And I was like, well, I never was able to stick with it before because I never got myself to go to regular classes or anything like that. So I figured that I would start it for the 30 days and I would stick with it for the 30 days. And after that, if I liked it, then I would, start,
Hmm.
saying like harder stuff. So I ended up loving it. So if you want to get into yoga, I would highly suggest this 30-day yoga challenge.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm an autodidact. I like to like learn stuff on my own, and I've like there's a lot of people that give me a hard time for this, but I've been learning jujitsu like on my own with
Okay.
yeah with a partner because I DIY'd like grappling mats, and
Hmm.
we got some very high quality instructors that made DVDs that you can get, and I understand that I'm never going to be recognized in the sport because I'm only practicing on my own, but it's just for the sake of practicing it and learning the craft. I find it super interesting, and I like to do it like that. So I was thinking, yoga seems like something that you don't necessarily need to go to a class, and it's more of a personal journey. If you can find the information out there and you can start on your own. I just have procrastinated starting, but I should get to it.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to start, there's never really a right time, but yeah, as far as learning it on your own though, I think that it would be really important I mean, there's a lot of resources online if you didn't want to go to a class. Like on YouTube, or I use a website called Do You Yoga.
Mm.
And I mean, or you could subscribe to one for like, I think I pay like $15 a month or something for like unlimited online classes. So if you didn't want to go to a class, then that would be your best option. Because as far as learning it on your own, if you just kind of start practicing, um, there's a lot of like alignment things that you want to be sure that you're getting right. Otherwise, you can really hurt yourself over time.
Huh.
Um, so, I mean, for the sake of not hurting yourself,
Yeah, I
and
know.
ready
Yeah, and
to learn.
I'm an old fart that just throws out his back at the drop of a hat. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you could always read a book too. There's books on alignment and proper ways to do things. So, but then you could totally build your own practice from there.
No, I'll definitely look into it. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of guys that the like old fighters or some stuff like that that abuse their bodies, and when they get to 40 they realize, oh shit, I gotta do some maintenance if I don't want to be riddled with arthritis or shit like that, and like they're all getting into yoga. So I
Hmm.
thought, yeah, there's definitely something to be learned there for sure.
Yeah, and I love that it's becoming so trendy. Like so many people now are realizing the benefits of it. Um, it's super awesome because it wasn't always that way. It was always kind of like a granola-y thing to do.
Yeah, it was super hippie for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but I mean, I've slowly gotten my roommates into it, and I brought my coworker to a class the other day. So slowly but surely rubbing off on everyone around me.
Hey, that's good, man. If you can be an example. Hey,
Yeah,
you mentioned something, and I wanna delve a little bit on that. You went to Hawaii. Like,
I
did
did.
did you go to like Honolulu, or did you go to
Well, I went with a
resorts?
bunch.
Or
Well, I went with a bunch of people in my lab because they were going to a conference for the coral reefs, and we ended up staying in this house on the North Shore in Haleiwa, and it was incredible. I would, oh, I can't wait to go back.
so you went diving there?
I didn't go diving there. We first of all we didn't bring our scuba equipment,
Mm.
and it's kind of expensive to rent and then get used to other equipment, and it just wasn't our thing at the time. But we did do a lot of snorkeling, and I'm not the best at free diving, but some of my coworkers are. So we did a lot of snorkeling and a lot of just diving on snorkel.
Yeah, that's funny because I can't snorkel if my life depended on it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and I probably have just never been taught the right way to do it. but I can't do it. Like I bite down on the thing like they tell me, and there's just water coming in no matter what I do. So yeah, I just like
You just gotta
apnea
breathe,
and
you know?
scuba, and that's it.
All right, all right. Well, in order to scuba, you got to be able to snorkel first.
Okay.
So if you want to scuba, you got to learn to snorkel.
All right. Well, I'm gonna need to find someone that can teach me because honestly, I tried it, and it's not because I didn't try, and I'm not stupid, but I just couldn't figure it out. Maybe it's because it was just shitty equipment too. I don't know.
That is very possible. Maybe there was a hole in your snorkel.
And so did you go like see a volcano there? Did you?
We didn't. We actually had we only had about 10 days.
Ah, yeah.
And I could literally go back to Oahu and spend another like 6 months there and just see everything a million times. It's absolutely beautiful. But we drove around the island. I'm trying to think back. We drove around the island. We did some hiking, but we spent a lot of time in the water. And then I was the only one who wanted to go skydiving. So I had my friends drive me to skydiving, and then they left and they went surfing or attempting to surf.
Mm.
And I went skydiving. And then for the first time in my life, I hitchhiked all the way back to where we were staying. So that was fun. It was this guy in a pickup truck, and he told me about like the history of Hawaii and stuff about just like developing on Oahu, like the city of Honolulu and stuff, like their rules on expanding. And he told me about like sugarcane and how they were burning all of that on the island, and then just the runoff from agriculture kind of killed the reefs.
Mm.
So that's another thing. That's another reason why we didn't really dive there. There wasn't too much to see in terms of coral.
Yeah, the Americans got their hands on it, and
Yeah, yeah.
eh.
It's kind of sad. But I'm sure there's better reefs and better diving around like the Big Island or something like that, but definitely not around Oahu. And then I got to go free diving with the guy who took me skydiving. We went out into the ocean, and he was chasing sharks out from the caves and stuff, and they were just they were white tip reef sharks.
Okay.
But still, I mean, it was super awesome.
Yeah, so they're like what, 3 feet long?
No. They were actually pretty big.
Okay.
But they don't really bother you. They just kind of chill in their caves until you go chase them out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would have been me. I would have, hey, sharks, I'm going.
Yeah, I wish I could hold my breath a little bit longer because I wasn't able to really get that close of a look at them because they were kind of far down.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, and
someday I'll learn how to free dive.
yeah, and they've got to be scared of you as well. You know, like a swimming monkey, that's not supposed to be here.
You don't belong here.
Yeah.
Totally. But I'm actually looking at shark diving in Florida, so that's next on my list. I've been looking at spring break shark diving. So,
Interesting.
bull sharks and tiger sharks and stuff like that. My friends think I'm crazy, but
No, hey, I've got a friend that lives in Orlando, and I've been meaning to go, take her up on her offer of couch surfing and just go into surfing and everything. I just, I don't know, like, I want to learn to surf, and I find it funny when people want to learn to surf in Hawaii, because I don't get it. There's 30-meter waves there. Why would you want to learn there?
yeah, no, actually though, on the North Shore, we were staying right near the pipeline. Heard
Mhm.
about it? And yeah, insane. And actually, the waves are like that in the Virgin Islands too. Not as crazy because Hawaii is famous for that, but the waves are huge. And I actually, on the plane to the Virgin Islands, I sat next to a local. He was from St. Thomas,
Okay.
and he talked my ear off. I'm not kidding, for the 5-hour flight. I was so annoyed, but I learned a lot, and he just went on about people learning to surf and how it's actually pretty dangerous, which I had no idea. I've never tried to surf, but apparently if you're a beginner and you want to learn how to surf, learning on big waves is not only dangerous for yourself, but also dangerous for people around you.
Yeah, because they suck up all the water up, so when you fall, you're super close to whatever's down there, and if there's reefs or like sharp rocks or anything, you're pretty close to them.
Yeah, and he was also saying about how people, beginners and stuff, can hit you. Like,
Yeah.
people might So you literally just collide, like it's like a car accident in the water. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like people learning to snowboard on mountains. You don't go to the beginner hill because you're gonna get hit for sure. Like people are not gonna know how to brake, and they're just gonna come like barreling down the hill, and yeah, they're gonna run into you.
Yeah, right. So I guess people don't typically learn how to surf on the pipeline. So, but there were a lot of people surfing and learning to surf in Honolulu.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was like, I guess that's if you're a beginner, that's where you go to learn how to surf is Honolulu,
Okay, but it's help me out here. Honolulu is on the western side or on the eastern side?
eastern side.
Oh, okay, there you go. So it's
Yeah,
between the mainland and yeah, but still Hawaii's like in the middle of the ocean. Doesn't make a difference.
the waves are definitely smaller there.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, um, but yeah, so I guess that's just where all the beginners go, and they use like huge surfboards, and it takes like four people to carry one of them. It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I don't know, illusion of security because the bigger board's more stable. But then if you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, right, right. Well,
Huh, that's funny.
I want to learn someday.
So Virgin Islands, where's that?
It's in the Caribbean.
Okay.
It's like if you go to Florida and then you go for another 2 hours into the ocean.
Okay, so like before the Bahamas?
It's after the Bahamas.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Um, it's like right on the edge of the Caribbean Sea. So, I mean, technically, if you're looking at a map, one side of the Virgin Islands is the Caribbean Sea, and the other side is the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, okay, I see.
If this gives you kind of like a visual.
Okay, I see.
Hmm.
Right, right. Hmm.
Yeah. So I was on St. John. There were, I mean, it's a little teensy island, and it's all national park for the most part, except for the two ends, which are developed. But yeah, it was like the best place for me to be ever. It was beautiful.
Yeah, no, and it's a U.S. territory, right? So it's not complicated for you to travel there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And you went to Iceland too?
I did go to Iceland. I went with a coworker. That actually was not for work or my research. That was just a fun thing to do. It's always like been on my radar, I guess, but I never actually thought I would go.
Mm.
I remember like years ago, I was trying to get my dad to take me scuba diving there because you can scuba dive between the continental plates in Thingvellir National Park, and it's very touristy, but it's definitely the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. You dive in glacier water. It's like a glacier meltwater type of thing, and it's super clear and super super cold. You actually have to dive it in a dry suit.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, okay.
yeah, but I mean, we didn't get to do it when I was there, just because I mean we traveled on a budget, and we thought we were being slick by going in the off season because we found a really cheap flight, and we just booked it on a whim, like 2 weeks in advance.
Hmm.
And turns out that just because the flight was cheap doesn't mean that when you get there, everything else is going to be cheap.
No, there you go. And it's like
Super
it's
expensive.
yeah. And I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I've always thought, there's so little people there that,
Hmm.
everything's got to be pretty expensive. For them, like with their currency and their economy, it's kind of, they make enough to, but then when you get there, it's like, there's so little people that it's developed enough for them, but then for tourists, it's got to be different.
Right. Yeah. We actually, well, the majority of the population of the whole country is located in Reykjavik, which is their capital.
Yeah, and it's like
So
as big as I don't
it's the
know.
city.
Yeah, no, I've got like Canadian suburbs in my mind, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's really small. There's like 300,000 people there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's really pretty and everyone's super nice. But we flew into Reykjavik and then we ended up road tripping the entire country. So there's a road that goes, it's called the Ring Road. So I'm sure you can imagine what it looks like. It's literally a circle around the whole country. So we ended up road tripping that. We did it in about 8 days, and we stayed at a different Airbnb every night with different people hosting us.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
learned, yeah, so it wasn't like they weren't, well, there were a few people that weren't there, but for the most part, we got to learn a lot about, their culture and like what they like to do and a lot of the history
Hmm.
stuff. It's super interesting. And so yeah, we ended up doing that and we stayed in the south for 2 days and then we stayed in the eastern fjords. And at the very northern tip, we stayed there for a night.
Okay.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it's been super close to my heart for a long time. I've been interested in strongman competitions for,
Mhm.
since I was a teen. So it's a big, big thing there. Like pool lifeguards are strongmen there. It's their national sport. But yeah, and it's so small. That I was looking at a Vice documentary that was saying it's really like a land of giants of sorts because like the percentage of people that do it, considering how like it's a big developed scene and there's almost nobody there. So
Hmm.
like there's like 30% of people that are at least involved in like strength and conditioning.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I feel like everything there is like extreme, like the
yeah,
people, the weather, the
yeah.
length.
I mean, do you watch Game of Thrones?
No, I don't actually. I
Okay.
watched about 4 episodes and I just couldn't get into it. But we did see all of the Game of Thrones things that were
Yeah,
there.
but what I was going to say, yeah, they do film there. But what I was going to say is there's a character yeah, that's called he's called like the Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, the mountain that rides. So you can
Mhm.
imagine where he gets it from. He's supposed to be 7 feet tall, and he's supposed to be this like towering guy that can crush a man's skull with his bare hands and everything.
Hmm.
And
And he's
they,
from Iceland or what?
huh?
He's from Iceland
No,
or
no, no,
what?
no. He's like from the it's like it's a fantasy country, right? It's a fiction country. It doesn't exist for real, but they used like two different or three different actors, and they were like small cameos, and they were kind of okay. But then they found this guy, right, who's like the runner up to the strongest man, to the world's strongest man competition, and he's a big Iceland guy, right? He's 6'9", 420 pounds, and yeah, and he's like the runner up to the world's strongest man. So like he can actually pull like a military cargo plane on his own.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like they used them, and they always had to do like camera tricks and like shoot people in a pit so that he would appear, bigger. And like with this guy, they don't have to do anything. Like they can give him a prop sword that weighs 80 pounds and he can wield it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. No, it's kind of ridiculous. They got this guy and they were like, yeah, okay, yeah, mountain. That seems right.
yeah, it seems very fitting. My whole thing was that I've always had more of like an adventurous personality.
Mm.
And for the longest time, I carried this huge Nikon with me. And I mean, I say huge, but it's actually not really that huge. I'm being kind of dramatic. But it was like one of those, DSLR things. And I would literally carry it hiking with me up all those like mountains in the Adirondacks and stuff. And it would add like 5 pounds to my bag. So I always wanted a GoPro, like since they came out.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that was in my life at the time, they would literally tell me, "You don't need a GoPro. You don't do anything extreme enough. Like, why would you ask for a GoPro for Christmas?" kind of thing. And then they turn around and they got one for themselves. Like, are you joking? I literally went out and I bought myself one for Christmas, like the following year. And I take it with me everywhere. It's always my go-to. But I was just so pissed. Like, how are you going to sit there and tell me that I can't do something? And why do I need something? Because I'm not cool enough, basically, for it. And, then you go and do it. So, I don't know. I think, yeah, like you said, not cutting, I guess that's a little extreme. I would say in hindsight, I'm glad that some things, kind of grow or evolve into something different, as in like maybe not kicking someone out of your life, but things happen the way they're meant to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I mean, if I was still in that situation, like I wouldn't be going places or doing anything.
Right.
Because I mean, I was supposed to go to med school, and that's kind of like where I was stuck. So I was supposed to go to med school, and I was with like this person was in my life, kind of
Mm.
thing. And it was like this little bubble that I was living in. And every time I wanted to go somewhere or do something, it was always like, you're being unrealistic. You don't understand how much it's actually going to cost. You can't go do it because I mean, how are you going to go do that? Like you have no reason to. So then as soon as that part of my life was kind of over, I literally just up and left. And I bought a plane ticket just on a whim, and I was like, I'm just gonna figure it out. And I went to Hawaii, and I figured it out. And I think like that in the end has taught me that, you know, you just, if you want it bad enough, you just make it happen. And, you know, you can go buy the plane ticket and then figure it out when you get there. And there's really nothing wrong with that. And a lot of the time, like, if anyone tells you you can't do something, usually they're freaking wrong. So,
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. You know, that's exactly what happened to me, and that's why I wanted to like touch base on it with you because I feel like there's a lot of people that hold themselves back because they have this idea of what was has been, drilled into their skulls that what your life should be and like you should do this and you should do what you want, you should do what drives you, and if anybody else is telling you different, then you need to cut bait. That's what you need to do.
yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, society as a whole just kind of gives you, I mean, I think it's biggest in America, because other people that I know from other countries don't have that mentality. But I think in America and I guess Canada, it's like, you know, you go to school and you get a job and you start a family, and it's like one thing after another after another. And it's like if you don't reach a certain milestone by a certain age, then, you know, there's something wrong with you or you're unmotivated or whatever. But I think that it's important to realize that, you know, like you should do what makes you happy.
Mm. And there's
Uh,
a big difference too with I'm gonna say our generation and make myself feel younger a little bit. There's something with our generation too, where like the baby boomers, they came, and they came at a time where jobs were available and opportunities were there, and then they hogged all of it, and they're still there. And then they had basically no kids. They had like one kid for each three adults.
right.
So now you're stuck where you can't advance in careers because everyone's got a degree now.
Right.
Everyone's got a degree, and there's little advancement available because the baby boomers are still holding all those power positions.
hmm
And
Right.
then like eventually we're gonna have to support all these old people, and there's not gonna be enough of us to support them. So when you look at the future, you're like, well, that's pretty bleak. I should really just. And that's what drove me to, what? I'm just gonna strike out on my own. I'm gonna figure it out. I want to start my own business. I've been wanting to do that since I was like 18.
hmm
And like when I got rid of those people that were, just telling me that I should buy a car and telling me that I should buy a house because it's stupid to pay rent and telling me that I should, eventually I realized that that's what's keeping me from doing it.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you know, my parents have the same sort of mentality, like love them to death and they have great hearts, but they have the mentality like grow up, get a job, and then you can do whatever you want when you're old and have all this money to go do things.
Right,
And
but
they
then
don't really see the point in being young and traveling while you can. And, you know, because once you get that certain job or whatever, it's like you don't really have the time anymore.
yeah, then you're gonna have kids, and it's all going to, and then you're gonna be 65, and are you going to be able to do everything you wanted? I mean,
Right.
I don't see myself swimming in with sharks at 65.
Exactly, exactly.
So
So yeah, I think that was the hardest part for my parents, at least, was to kind of accept the fact that I'm just going to do whatever I want. And I think they're slowly figuring out that when I say I'm going to do something, I usually do it. So I think it's scaring them a little bit, but it was really hard for them to kind of like let go of the whole idea of me graduating and going to med school and being a doctor. And, you know, because when I told them that I wanted to do marine biology, I think they were just kind of like, all right, this is a phase. Like they were crossing their fingers that it was a phase because I always kind of had like a plan A, B, C, D, E, planning to go to med school and then getting a job and whatever. But now I guess for like the first time in my life, I don't really have a long-term plan. So I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go. I'm planning on graduating in August and then I'll have my master's. And I don't know, I've been applying to jobs all over the place, but I actually don't know where I'm going to end up. So it's actually kind of terrifying, but I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrifying because you don't know what you're stepping into, but then, life's going to take you where it's going to take you. If you're doing something that, you're truly passionate about, then that's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. And, with what I do now, it's like I get to travel and I get to do all of these cool things that I wouldn't have otherwise probably ever gotten to do. My life would have been going in a very different direction, and I totally wasn't happy. And I actually don't think I realized that until very recently, that I wasn't happy where I was, just because I'm so happy now.
Yeah, no, there you go. And that's just, I just lost my train of thought there.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, no, so I mean, I get it. Like, you can't realize that you're not happy until you realize that you're not happy. It's just, if you're stuck in this routine and this, comfort, eventually you realize, when you step out of it that, oh, wow, okay, so I was really just doing all of this out of habit and comfort, and I wasn't, doing
Right.
it. I wasn't doing it for me. I was just doing it so that, nothing would
It's
feel scary.
comfortable. Right. And I mean, you can't really grow as a person unless you're pushed outside that comfort zone,
Yeah.
And I think the past like 2 years or so, basically since I started grad school, I feel like I've been pushed so far outside my comfort zone that I've just grown as a person so quickly. And, that's really important to me because previously I just was very sheltered and, didn't really do much. But now I'm starting to realize that there's like a whole lot out there.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I'm basically just taking things day by day, and I think yoga taught me a lot about that, basically to just be in the now,
Right.
which is I found really hard to do, but I'm getting a little bit better.
Yeah, but then, that's how you get to deal with, the uncertainty of, not knowing where you're stepping next. And
Exactly, one step at a time.
hey, wise words, guys, live by them. All right. Hey, I'm going to put all the ways you can follow Jackie in the show description. But basically, I think it's at _ JKROW. Am I wrong?
You are right.
On Instagram. Yeah, and obviously, thank you for being on the show. It was a really, really nice conversation. I'm glad you accepted.
Great, thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. Please go and follow Jackie on Instagram at jkrow. That's JKROW. You can also take a second to rate and review this podcast. It helps me out a crap ton. I'll be back next week with another episode. Stay awesome, yo.
Are you ready to go adventuring? Come along, my friend. The mountains and